So definitely look it up. It's called HBO Real Sports with Brian Gumble, and it's let me know if you guys seen it too. Drop in the comments. And it's about psychedelic drugs with specifically people that are dealing with CTE. So they had the one hockey player who was a fighter. He would go out there and fight people for his whole entire career. He would go and protect his teammates, and if his teammate got hit hard, he would come skating down, drop the gloves, go fight people, get hit. He would hit people. And you deal with a lot of brain trauma and brain damage from doing that. It's very obvious. You slam your brain around that much, that's what's going to happen. It's going to struggle. You're going to get CTE, and you're going to get compulsive disorder and get all these different things. So basically, they interviewed Carcillo, NHL player, hockey player. They interviewed Kerry Rhodes, who's a ex-NFL Jets player. I think he was a cornerback or a safety, defensive back. And then they interviewed Dean Lister, who was an ex-UFC MMA fighter. And they even had on the guy Ian McCall, who's a MMA fighter who's been on Joe Rogan before and stuff like that. So they had these guys and a few different categories. They've all done it separately. And so the first guy, the hockey player, he was going to kill himself. He was thinking about how can I kill myself and what can I do to get out of this pain? He's in his head. He was in such a depressed state that he's thinking about how he can kill himself successfully and leave whatever problems that he has, right? So this is really fucking sad. It's really deep, and you're like, whoa, Jesus Christ, you know what I'm saying? This guy's really, and he's really the way he's able to explain his feelings and the way he felt is it's really astonishing. It's almost like you can tell that they're realizing, it's really crazy. They're realizing that their brain is falling apart. They realize that their brain is not working the same way it was, or if anything, the brain is deteriorating. Their competence, their cognitive ability is deteriorating, and you could see it's scaring them. They're realizing, holy fuck, I'm dying in my own head. It's a crazy experience as a viewer, and you're you can see it on their face, how scared they were just talking about it. It's really interesting. So the hockey player Carcillo, he basically goes and he does a psilocybin retreat. So I don't think he does ayahuasca. I believe he does a psilocybin retreat. Maybe he does ayahuasca. I believe it's psilocybin. So ayahuasca, psilocybin, a little different. Psilocybin is the medical term for magic mushrooms, right? And ayahuasca is a different style of drug. It's kind of a different high, different drug. And it is a different drug. But so he did psilocybin, and he had this crazy euphoric trip and did the whole shaman and had the whole ritual and did the whole thing. And he literally one time, one trip, one experience, his entire life changed. His wife came on, said instantly he was a different person. He was a normal person. She said for years, he wouldn't smile. He wouldn't laugh. He wasn't himself. He wasn't the man that she married, he wasn't the man that she had her children with. And it's damn, that's fucking crazy, bro. One trip, one time. And he was completely back to normal. And same thing with the NFL player, Kerry Rhodes. He was forgetting his wallet at places. He's you could tell he's realizing that his brain is malfunctioning to a certain extent. It's breaking down and stopping working. And you could see the look on there. It's insane. It's really insane. And I believe he did ayahuasca. So that's more of a little bit longer trip, I believe, than psilocybin. And very similar, you go to a shaman, you purge, and you have this deep spiritual high meaning. A lot of things happen. You see a lot of your inner demons. You deal with a lot of problems that you have internally and mentally. You see a lot of memories and stuff like that. And it's really life-changing. And then this guy came out, and he said he was completely a different person. His life has never been better. He doesn't have any cognitive issues, nothing at all. And it's insane. Just like the experience aspect, right? So those are those people's experiences. And then you could look at the science. So then you have the neuroscientists and the neurosurgeons come in and talk about what's happening in the brain, physiologically, psychologically, all these different things, right? It's really fucking awesome. And so there's one part that's really interesting. So right now, my brain, it's called like, I believe it's called like neurons. So you have these, basically they're like checkpoints in the brain where you have like 30 to 40 neurons connecting. You're making all these like electrical connections, right? Like just about 30 or 40 connections are going on right now. When you're on LSD, even LSD, so when you're on LSD, mushrooms, some sort of psychedelic drug, your brain is producing like hundreds and thousands of connections, all these new connections, these new ways of electricity that have never been formed, these new ways of thoughts and patterns that have never been created. And actually it's beneficial. So, right, like there are arguments that like if you're a person that's going to lose your mind later in life, if you do some of these drugs, like, yeah, you could probably lose your mind and have a psychotic episode. But the argument is you're probably going to lose your mind either way, and the drug just turned it on, right? But kind of interesting, right? That's kind of scary too. But when you're on these psychedelics, you have all these connections going on. Your brain is lit the fuck up. It's crazy when you see it, when you see like a picture of it. And actually, when they realized that the brain, when it takes so much damage, or when it has like experiential I don't know if I'm using that I guess we'll just use trauma. When you have life experience and trauma that has caused brain trauma basically, and when you do these psychedelic drugs, not only do you have thousands of new connections and good connections, and it starts to make better connections, and then it keeps those connections. So when you're not high anymore and you're a normal person, your brain has almost like recovered. It's made new, better, more supportive, like neurological connections. It's fucking astonishing. It is astonishing stuff right there. It is really crazy. And I'm watching it with like my mom and dad. I'm like, see, this is awesome. And my mom's like, but Luke, you don't have any fucking mental problems. You don't need to do it. And I'm like, fuck you, bitch. I'm still doing it. It's like, I'm gonna find it. Nah. I'm kidding. No, I'm not. But yeah, it was really some astonishing stuff right there. So you should definitely at least watch that documentary. It's 20 minutes long. So dope. So honestly, I might watch it again. But yeah, it was really cool. And but you can hear things like Rogan's had on people like Sam Harris, who's a neuroscientist, and he's talked about, what meditation does. People always talk about meditation, like their experience with meditation. Well, he's a neuroscientist, and he's actually studied meditation and what it does to the brain. And when he articulates what happens when you meditate and when you take LSD and when you take psychedelic drugs, and he's taken it and he's meditated and he's done this now, and you're like, oh, this is a neuroscientist. Like, if my brain were to like explode in itself, this is the guy that's going to study it. This is the guy that's going to do all the research and tell everybody else what the fuck they should think about the brain, because he knows what's going on to a certain extent, right? Who knows if science is real? # science is fake. No. But it's really interesting stuff. So, yeah, the whole psilocybin, psychedelic drugs, and helping with PTSD. PTSD is something that they didn't talk about specifically in that. It was more CTE. So, and then the one guy who was a UFC fighter, he was like struggling speaking, and you could see he was really dealing with some mental issues. Like, he must have got fucked up in the octagon. Like, and you are going to see, mark my words, you are going to see a generation of athletes and fighters that come out, because like all these Conor McGregor and all these guys are gonna come out with brain damage. Like, maybe not McGregor himself, but these guys are going to come out and they're going to have brain damage. They're going to get in trouble with their families. They're going to do compulsive, impulsive things, and like, you're going to see it, and we're going to watch people struggle right in front of our eyes mentally because of a sport that they tried to chase. Not to say that it's wrong to chase that sport, but like, now it seems, in my opinion, that we have a little bit of some positive light towards the medication aspect. And it is it is psychedelic drugs. So it's really interesting.